Yeah. Welcome back. It's another episode of Unapologetic with Eric King on WOVU 95.9 FM. And this week is the Brother to Brother Week that is sponsored by Code M Magazine, a space where men's voices can be heard. So as usual, we're going to have our normal rundown. I want to give a shout out to those that are listening on 95.9 FM and also on WOVU.org. Go ahead, once you log in, go to WOVU.org and click that listen live, and then you can go ahead and listen in no matter where you are. Also, today's topic is near and dear to my heart. Today's topic is the book No More Mr. Nice Guy, a proven plan for getting what you want in love, sex, and life by Robert Glover. Now, let me be perfectly honest. So this book, just like many other books that I read, I enjoy them, but they're also from what I like to call a Eurocentric background. And when I hear these books, I only get partial information from these books. So books like The 4-Hour Work Week and Negotiate, I can't think of the name of the book, but Negotiate Like Your Life is Dependent on It. So all these books are out there, and they're all written, by white men in America. So although I am black, I am light-skinned, which means my proximity to whiteness is a little closer than somebody who is 1 to 2 shaders darker than me. And that's just how it is in America. I am not mixed. I am what 2 light-skinned parents create. And so because of that, I am of the lighter hue, as they say. So despite that, I am a black man, and often the strategies used in books won't have the same results because of, perceived or, the aspects of racial stereotypes in America. So what do we do about that? So what we're going to talk about today is this book, and also how this book impacts black men, or, this book specifically as it relates to black men. So in mainstream culture, the nice guy avoids confrontation, puts others first. He's the guy who holds doors open, offering emotional support and waiting, for his turn, and then realize there's nothing to turn to. Now, if you read the book, No More Mr. Nice Guy by Dr. Glover, what he does is outline, that aspects of the nice guy. And what he does in the book also is does an excellent job of explaining why. And just to, in short, what he basically stated was around World War I and II, women were left to raise the kids, and because women wanted their children or their male kids to be liked, they didn't want to pass on some forms of unlikableness as it relates to, gruffness and roughness and all that other good stuff. And so what happens is over time, that socialization, for the most part, like I like to call it, it's the wussification of America. And we've decided not to actually be mean. And what I mean by that is spiteful, but we're also not actually being ourselves. And so as I was reading this book, I saw me and other men in my circle. Oddly enough, one of my clients brought this book to my attention. He came into a session, was like, "Hey, Eric, I got this book and I was reading it, and it reminds me of certain things that you and I talk about." And so because, I like to stay in contact and also like to stay up with my clients, I read the book. Okay, hold on. I didn't read the book. I listened to the book, and then I bought the book, and then I played out the book in session. But more and more that I read the book, the more and more I recognized exactly what was saying. And so was interesting. I would be called, or I would be termed as a partial nice guy recoverer. So what that basically means is some years ago, I found out that some of the things that I was doing to be quote unquote liked and to make people happy wasn't actually, making me happy. And I just decided to stop doing it. Now, the partial part about it is I am black. But in the black community, it's a whole totally different thing, right? So if there's certain amount of gruffness or a certain amount of things that go on in our society that as a black man, I and many others, whether they are a lighter skinned black or a darker skinned black male, just can't do. But in the black community, the rules are, the rules are a bit different, right? So the cost of being too nice is real, right? So on one hand, in a place where it is not predominantly black, you are viewed as a threat. On the other hand, if you are soft, you are viewed as a mark and someone that can be taken advantage of. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So the topic, nice guy, or the aspect of nice guy, is something that we're going to get into. And we do have one half of the dynamic duo, as we call the brother-to-brother crew. And I want to bring you in and just, say what's up and just see how you're doing. What's up, big dog? How you feel, Ivra?
Hello, folks.
Hold on, man. I got to turn your mic on, dude. Chill out. Hold on. Okay, there you go.
Good afternoon.
What's up?
Everybody.
What's up? How you feel today, man?
I'm glad to be here as always. Another day in paradise.
Another day in paradise. It's 7 degrees outside in Cleveland, Ohio.
It ain't gonna be 7 forever.
It ain't gonna be 7 forever. So based off of our topic today, so just on the 5 minutes that I was pontificating on, what's your thoughts on that before we jump into the actual topic after our hump day mix?
I think being nice is not bad. Being nice is not bad. I haven't read the book. I will freely admit that I did not read the book.
Yeah.
It sounds like, and it was written by a white dude.
Yeah.
Am I understanding that correctly?
Dr. Robert Glover.
Okay. I'm not going to completely dismiss it.
You're not going to completely dismiss it. What is that?
That means that I actually am going to completely dismiss it, but I'm just going to be nice about it.
Yeah.
Because how can I just don't understand how a white dude can write a book about black men.
But he didn't. So he didn't write a book about black men. What he did was write a book about men.
Okay. Right.
And because and because we are individuals that, fall under, right?
Okay.
The male, right? We fall into that. So if we look at it.
But that's where our similarity
But wait.
is. We are dudes and that's it.
So you agree that in the black community, being nice is a survival mechanism. But it was also, if you read the book, it was also a survival mechanism based off of what he stated as well, but for different reasons. For example, in order to propagate your DNA, someone has to like you.
True.
And based in the book, what he's basically saying is, the men went away to fight and the women was here and it was like, I don't know what I'm doing, right? I got to raise this boy child. And so what do I do to raise this boy child? I make him likable. And in making him likable, there are certain things that, were infused in order to, once again, make him likable, allow him to be dated and all that other good stuff.
So I think the big mistake that we make is trying to make folks likable,
right,
versus trying to teach young men how to understand themselves.
Correct, and that's exactly what the book says. See, See? You didn't even read.
I told you I'm not going to completely dismiss the book.
But so if we look at it from what we talk about, right? We don't necessarily just solely talk about black issues or black stuff, quote unquote black stuff. We talk about everything. When I read these books, the 4-Hour Workweek, thought the exact same thing, right? So this individual wrote this book based on how to get into a 4-hour work, 4-hour work week, whether you have an employer or you don't. Now the interesting part, the part that I was a little taken back about is how he treated his employer when he was at work, making certain demands, making certain, stating certain things. I haven't worked in the corporate industry in a while. You have. You go in and you roundabout way, dictate how your hours go. How is that going to go for you?
So I have a different kind of a dictating to somebody that pays you an hourly wage ain't gonna work.
Right.
I don't. I'm mostly commission based, so
right.
I work to make sure that I get paid or whatnot.
Right.
That don't work.
Right. I know.
They need you to do certain things for a certain amount of time. And get certain projects done. So that doesn't.
And I'm not doubting that, but I'm also, when it comes to racial biases and when you're higher up, it's already less of you anyway, and you already got the imposter syndrome. So when I was reading that book, The 4-Hour Workweek, there was definitely things that I was like, this don't apply to everybody.
Right.
Don't. So the topic, let's introduce the topic. So black men aren't just dealing with being overlooked in relationships or work. We're also dealing with the social aspect or the experiment of supposed to, right? We're supposed to be this way. We're supposed to act this way. You know, from day to day, we can be both strong and stoic and tough. And then we got to go home, right? That's just outside the home. We got to go home and be a different way because the world, you know, says that we have to be a certain way. So some of us shrink ourselves in order not to impose, right? So I have a client who is roughly 6'5" or 7". He's a big dude, right?
Yeah.
And he works in the industry, not the industry, but he works in the corporate world, right? He wouldn't admit this, but some of the things that, you know, he has said is, I've had to learn how to live in this body because I'm a big black man, right? He's not a big black man as in girth.
He's a foot taller than me. So the brother is big.
But he's a big dude, right?
He's a big dude.
He's a big
gonna
dude.
Intimidate people just
and
by showing up.
and so he plays small, right, in order to keep the peace. You know, even some of the things that he's struggling with is a byproduct of him playing small, and we have to do that to avoid from appearing intimidating.
Yeah. Wow. That's a lot.
All right. Yeah, but seriously. So when I think about the nice guy, or when I was reading it, and I think about him, he had to be a nice guy in America because he was also happened to be born black and happened to be born at a height that may be viewed as imposing. And he smiles too much.
Ooh,
he smiles
that's a
too
survival. That's
much.
definitely a survival
Right.
mechanism.
And so right. He smiles too much, and he uses humor in order to break barriers. Now, if you look, so recently I sat down and watched Suits, right? I don't know if you watched that. It's a show about this dude. He's a con man, right? He has an eidetic memory, and he remembers everything. He strolls into by happenstance, to avoid from getting arrested, he strolls into an actual meeting. Not a meeting. I'm sorry. What's the word I'm looking for? He strolls into an interview, and in that interview, he, you know, another white male, and they agree to work together and bring him in as a lawyer. Wouldn't have worked, right?
No.
Wouldn't have worked.
No.
I didn't see a black person in that. A black male, another black male in Suits that was a character, and for at least 1 or 2 seasons, and he just so happened to be the love interest father, right, of the woman that's the paralegal in the office. Anyway, so
we wouldn't even dream of something crazy like that happening.
So we gonna jump into our mix, and on the other side, we're going to talk about this narrative, and we're going to do our thing. So if you want to hear, we want to hear from you, you know, and you got some free time, look us up on Instagram, you know, at Talk to E King, as well as you can give us a call at 216-271-0959. But we're gonna get into this, and we're going to get into our Hump Day mix and get everybody moving. So this is Unapologetic on WOVU 95.9 FM. Welcome back, Unapologetic with Eric King on WOVU 95.9 FM. So today's topic, let's just jump right into it before we get going. I want to welcome my brother Ivra, as I said. Today we're going to go ahead and talk about the book No More Mr. Nice Guy, written by Dr. Robert Glover. And like I said, when I read this book, many books like this, I only get partial information from, not because it's not a good book, it's because certain things that I read are not actually, you know, transferable 100% as they make it within the book. So black men are raised with a very different rule book, right? So in many cases, we're taught to be strong, reliable providers, but at the same time, we're also told not to be too threatening, to be easygoing, and to be liked. If we look at it from this standpoint, right, we walk in the tightrope. If you are a black man and want to talk about it, and you were raised with that type of mantra, give me a call at 216-271-0959, and just, let's talk about, how it has shaped you. So Ivra, before we went on break, you had some words as it relates to the nice guy, and also the aspect that being a nice guy isn't an actual bad thing. Did you want to add to that, or do you want to move on?
No, it's the best way to you described it as walking in a tightrope.
Yeah.
Because you can't stray too far one way or the other, because you don't want to be threatening. And something that I perceive personally that I could perceive as me just being firm, someone else can receive it
Right.
as a threat. And so you do have to, protect yourself at all times, as they would say in a boxing match. But you got to protect yourself at all times and figure out and understand how to move in many different directions.
Yeah.
And that's just what it is.
The odd part about this book is it tells you to cast off a fair amount of. So let me also say this. So Dr. Glover, he's a PhD mental health provider. He's a counselor, and he looked up on this concept just in many ways like I may have, right? So I only work with men, and when I work with men, he started a group, and he noticed that most of the men that he was seeing was having these responses. I went to his website because he also, just like everybody else, does what do you call them? Like destination stuff. Everybody
Retreats.
Right, retreats. Everybody that I saw in the photo were, not black, and I'm gonna be real honest. They also look like simps, right? They also look like cats that women that women wouldn't go after anyway. And the only thing that they have to do is to be nice, but they've been walked on. So from that standpoint, I get it. From the black community standpoint, there are some pros to it, right? So being a nice guy is a survival mechanism. That's one. Secondly, it's a family and community expectations, right? Because we have so many negative stereotypes about black men in communities going all the way back to 1950s, 60s, around that. Being a nice guy is, a family asset as well as a community asset, and also in the workplace, right? So navigating, in the professional setting, black men often have to feel the pressure of tons, right? So the higher you go, the less you see. And unfortunately, everything that goes on, that relates to color is on your shoulders. Now, we're talking about men, and we know that women also have this same struggle. But today, we're specifically talking about men and some of the things that they've gone through. So some of the pros in being a nice guy is survival mechanism, family and community expectation, and workplace navigation. What's your thoughts on that, boss?
So I think over the last week I was doing. I'm gonna try to keep this concise. Over the last
we got time. You got 15 minutes.
I did my leadership Giaga cohort disc assessment. Shout out to LG.
Shout out.
Amazing group and a great organization. And understanding, and I kind of said this a little bit before, but understanding yourself is the biggest strength that you can have, and
right.
having a better understanding of you, and then understanding how you kind of communicate and interact with other folks.
Right.
I've found over the last few weeks, I've just kind of thought about just how you see people, how you move with people, and just interacting with folks. And one of the things that I've noticed is that people don't think about other folks. Like, people don't care about you.
Right.
It's not that they are being overly evil or just horrible.
We're self-absorbed.
Self-absorbed.
Yeah.
Preoccupied with what's going on. And I think once we are able to understand that, like, that person may or may not be going after me, they just don't think about me.
Yeah.
And I think for us, when we find our tribe as adults, like, and that's another thing too, is as a kid, you don't have.
Wait. Why did you flip that?
You don't have. Well, that's how my ADHD
No. Keep with that
works.
same thought. No. And I know where you're going, but I think that's the most important. As an adult, blank.
As
Finish
an
that.
adult, we find our tribe, and I think many times we don't recognize that our surroundings are not going to play best to our strengths. Mm-hmm. This is where I am. Like, we don't think outside of our own situation and circumstance.
Yeah.
And the better you can kind of see yourself in a better place, the better you're able to get to that place.
Let me add this one. So when I read No More Mr. Nice Guy, what I was reading was how we became people pleasers. And we all know that people pleasing is the number one way to get what you want. For us in our community, people pleasing was the number one way not to get killed.
Yeah.
Right? So when you are sitting here, oddly enough, we just had the Super Bowl, right? When we're sitting here, yes, Boston and whatnot, we are reacting and communicating in a way so not to be harmed. So what I hear more than anything else is if I look at the survival mechanisms, the family community, the workplace navigation, we're still not trying to be harmed. And as black men, if I, in reading this book and understanding what this book is, it's going to set us up for harm in ways that maybe the author didn't actually look at.
I can see that. And I think too, historically, we do a natural code switch.
Yeah. And that's what it is.
And it's built in.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I was again in my leadership yoga cohort last Friday.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of broke that down. They were talking about how some people behave and move differently in different situations.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yo, man, black folks have been doing this for ages.
Yeah.
It's called code switching.
Yeah.
And dude, one of the dudes was just like, his face
He
was
didn't get it.
astonished. No,
Yeah.
he understood it, but it was funny because he was like, oh, that's why when Kamala Harris, he applied it to Kamala.
Yeah.
He was like, that's when she was in here,
Yep.
she sounded this way, but when she was over there, and I'm like, it's something that is naturally done. It's self-preservation.
Survival
And
mechanism.
it kept us above the,
Yeah.
out of the dirt.
Yeah. No, I get you.
Around for
I get
many
you.
years, so
That survival mechanism, and like I said, in looking at once again, I strongly recommend individuals read this book, especially men. I work with men in my practice, and I have said I've bought the book and I purposefully, keep it within eye contact just in case someone brings it up and we can talk about it. I believe people should read this book because what it does is outline and it gives you a really good synopsis on how men got here and also how to be the best type of men. Because what also stated in his book is if you follow the steps and some of the activities that are in this book, you're probably going to get a divorce. Because, no, seriously, the person that you're actually with is not with you. They're with the confab of you. And if you go and you change, then you might not be with that person. And so what they recommend is if you are an individual that is in a relationship, then to ask that person you're in a relationship with to read this book also, so that they can understand. Exactly. Yeah. So it's not when I hear it or when I read it, it wasn't a concept of, oh my God, this is terrible. It's a really good book. And the activities really do help you. Now, the other part about that is this is also the pro of the book. When you go to counseling, I do see in counseling, because I deal with just men and I work with just men, a lot of those men get divorced because what happens is when they go through the process of flowering or growing, the spouse that they're with, they go through their own changes because you go from being this dude to a whole nother dude. And it's like, okay, I don't want this dude.
Yeah. You can evolve. I mean, we're all going to evolve.
Yeah.
And marriages are one of those situations where you begin as one person and you evolve to another. And people, in many cases, obviously with the divorce rate being about 50%,
right.
In many cases, we evolve into someone completely different and unacceptable.
Okay.
To that person.
Yeah.
That we, and vice versa.
But no. What I was going to say is unacceptable and unpalatable. Right. And what I mean by palate is tasting, right? Yeah. It's that dealing with that person. And what happens?
If I like chocolate, I don't want no strawberry. Wow. I mean, let's kind of keep it like simplistic.
No, I'm with you. But no, the other thing is, all right, so let's look at it from, the negative part. So in the black community, being a nice guy, so that's the pros, right? Survival mechanism, family, community, right? expectations and workplace navigation, right? You get to live, you get to be accepted within your family, and you also get to make money. Now let's look at some cons. So some cons are a loss of respect in relationship, which if you look at everything that's inside of social media right now that we're being fed is we keep seeing this dynamic of black men and black men and women dynamic is a loss, right? To where they've categorized. I've yet to see any of that in any other dynamic of relationships. So that's a con, right? Yes. Many black men find themselves in a situation where their kindness is mistaken for weakness, right? Second thing is career stagnation. If you are not an individual who feels comfortable in conflict, because that's also where it comes in, you're not going to advocate for yourself for a raise in the way that a black male would do. Next thing is unspoken resentment, right? And what's interesting about resentment is we going to hold that on the inside and we going to go kick the dog and we going to go cheat on our wife or we going to go cheat. And he also talked to, homosexual men or gay men, right? This is just men, period.
Right.
This is men, period. So when we look at the cons, we got loss of respect in relationships. We got career stagnation, what messes with my money. And then that resentment, which turns into spite, right? You get this resentment, the next level is spite. And so what I find in working with the population that I'm working with, we have a lot of spiteful men, not because they're mean or because they're dogs. It's because they've been kicked so long because they took the nice guy route or the people-pleasing route. What you got?
So that is interesting because I have a dude that I know, and he's that dude.
Yeah,
he's this cat right here.
You know that fella.
I know him very, and I don't know him very well. Mm-hmm. We interact on a social level. Mm-hmm. But as I see him and I see how he moves and his little posts on social media, and I'm just like, bruh, who hurt you?
You're doing too much, right? Because of that resentment.
And it's clear,
and it's coming out.
Obvious.
It seeps out.
It's obvious, and then I feel bad for his daughter. I'm like, man, does your daughter see how you move?
Yeah,
because you don't really like women, dude. Like,
but that is how it. But that's how it looks. I'm only laughing because that's literally how it looks. And the narrative is, oh, you just don't like women. No, I am hurt, and I lack the ability to process and understand how I'm feeling because
how to come out on the other end.
Because what did I do? I took the nice guy route. That's what I was trained. Now the next thing, before you jump into that, and I'm gonna go with that, being a nice guy means we're being taken advantage of. You go out in a relationship, right? You go out and you're dating someone. You look that person in the eye and say, you know what, we're gonna go Dutch. What's gonna happen?
There might be a little problem.
Why?
Because of expectations.
Based where, though?
Yep.
Based where?
In our community.
Exactly. What's funny, that other taking advantage of part is, so one of the big things was Saquon Barkley and his wife, because his wife is white. The funny part is how can I say this? The narrative was Saquon Barkley was really ugly when he was growing up.
Okay, Saquon Barkley, running back, Philadelphia
Eagles. I'm sorry, Super Bowl champ. And what someone said, one of the ladies said was like, yo, I would not have dated him as long as this woman dated him because he didn't look at me. He didn't look visually appealing at me. And so when we look at this taken advantage of, and we go back to this idea of who's supposed to pay and who's not supposed to pay, I do believe that there's some unrealistic expectation in dating, but they're also, propagated by us men because we want to be accepted and we believe that, certain things. There's nothing wrong because I'm not going to give I have a son and I have a daughter. I have 2 sons and I have a daughter, right? I'm going to tell both of them the same thing, right? If you meet a person and you say, hey, can we go Dutch? And they can't, and they throw you off, then you don't need to be with that person.
Right. Oh,
but go ahead. I'm sorry.
So I think first of all, when it comes to relationships, we need to recognize and move with certain truths,
Mm-hmm.
right? Black men and black women are together more than any other.
Yeah.
Like in terms of
That's the crazy
right
part.
in terms of black
Yeah.
folks, and we're gonna leave
Yeah.
it in the
Just
we
leave it there.
We date and marry and have babies with other black folks.
Yes.
Most.
Yes.
Period.
Yes. Yes. That is the highest number.
So and I think we oftentimes and I don't care who you date.
Yeah.
But we have to remember the truths in our existence. And for like my dude,
The guy that you were talking about.
Going back to that, I would love for him. I would love to have a conversation with him, but then it becomes difficult because it becomes argumentative.
It does.
And I'm like, I'm just trying to.
I'm just trying to help you, bro.
understand
Right. Right.
And understand that when you make these posts, ultimately your daughter's going to see that.
Ultimately, and you can't be you can't. I have a friend of mine, and he is a very misogynistic individual.
It's hard to be around those dudes,
right?
Man.
And he is lucky he had 3 boys. I could not imagine him raising a daughter based off of how long I've known that cat.
It makes me sad for his daughter.
Yeah, but he doesn't have a. You mean for your people?
My dude's got a daughter. It makes me sad for his daughter because I'm like, how?
Yeah, yeah. So before we jump out on the break, right? We got about 5 minutes until we got to pay some bills. All is not lost.
It's not.
Can I say that again? All is not lost. And that taking advantage part is something that really, well, it's 2 things, when I looked at it from a black, male standpoint, that career stagnation and the taking advantage of is something that holds dear to me. Me as an individual, I've always valued myself, no matter where I went, right? I made I worked within my hours. I never went up, and it was viewed as, it was viewed as, he's not ambitious. No, it's not that I'm not ambitious. I know I was taught the game by my mother a long time ago of, okay, when you go do something extra, make sure it's documented, and make sure when you're in meetings, ensure that you get the credit. If I look at it, if I'm being nice and I'm just going along to get along, I'm people pleasing, my career is automatically going to be stagnant. And I'm guarantee individuals whose career are stagnant because they don't want to go in and negotiate.
Because it's difficult. By the nature of a negotiation, it is a confrontational conversation.
Automatically.
And most people don't want to have a confrontational conversation.
Automatically.
I've never been mistaken for a Mr. Nice Guy, and I do not mind a confrontation. Therefore,
you can't make me cough and laugh at the same time. Yeah. So all is not lost. All right. So we're gonna go over 4 ways to balance this out and break this down. All right. So all is not lost. I'm gonna jump into this as a therapist, and we're just gonna keep it moving, and then we're gonna take our break in a little while. So I'm trying to get this out before we jump into our break, right? So the first one is the balance between kindness and strength. Being nice and being strong aren't opposite. You can be kind without being pushover, and move from there. All right. Next one is redefine masculinity for ourselves. For too long, we have viewed the concept of masculinity, or we're told that in order to be masculine is a harmful thing, or to be harmless or be hyper masculine, right? And so either we're going to shrink ourselves or we're going to raise ourselves. In reality, the reality is neither extremes are healthy. Be somewhere in the middle. Okay? The third one is building confidence without seeking validation. A lot of nice guys behavior comes from trying to be liked rather than being respected. The question is, are you moving through life hoping for approval, or are you moving with purpose? Okay? When you're sitting down and you're evaluating yourself and you're evaluating moves and why you're making decisions, are you looking to be liked, or are you looking to be respected? And then the fourth one, right? So I'm going to give you these practical steps for breaking the nice guy loop. So all the nice guys that are listening, we're gonna take a break, and I'm gonna come back, and I'm gonna give you the steps of breaking this loop. All right, this is free counseling. This is like $135 an hour type of counseling. So we're gonna take a quick
Give me a
break.
little tease.
Right. We're gonna take a quick break. This is Unapologetic on WOVU 95.9 FM.
Men of color are living in unprecedented times. They are dealing with unprecedented circumstances. There has never been a brighter spotlight shined on how men of color are perceived, live, and are treated by society. The world is having a new conversation about race. The world is waking up to a new consciousness. In homes, offices, gyms, and backyards, everywhere people of various backgrounds and nationalities are rehashing over the same question. How can I impact the change that is needed right now in America? Code M magazine was born out of the need to bring to life the celebration, accomplishments, and lifestyles of men of color, published with a purpose to expose the world to the wonderful happenings engaging men of color. Code M magazine shines the spotlight right where it needs to be. With articles that excel in different occupations, including business, politics, medicine, science, and technology, Code M magazine offers its readers a new perspective and wide-ranging opinions from highly respected writers on a quarterly basis, for now, with the goal of going monthly in the very near future. We are offering our readers a unique opportunity to become a part of the Code M family by investing in our mission of publishing articles about amazing people changing the narrative of what is successful. We welcome you to take a closer look at Code M magazine and its family of businesses. Let's get excited, get involved, and let's make history together, one issue at a time, to show America and the world what magnificent men are really about. Code M magazine, transforming the lives of men of color.
Welcome back, Unapologetic on WOVU 95.9 FM. Once again, shout out to Jay. Today is Jay's birthday. He ain't sitting out there no more. I don't know where he went, but today is Jay's birthday. All right. On the other side, we were talking about this idea of Mr. Nice Guy, and I was giving you practical things in order to do, that you should do to, break this cycle. All right. So the fourth thing, or these steps in order to break this cycle, I'm gonna go through them, and then Ivra, I want you to add your flavor to them. All right. So first thing is stop apologizing for taking up space. Now I've heard this in a lot of different ways, but it is not necessarily is not necessarily operationalized. And what I mean by that is there are times when and I have to tell my kids this, stop apologizing for things that you believe I'm upset, with, right? To me, that's not taking up space. And I say it more with my daughter than I do with my son. That's just me. Second, set clear boundaries and enforce them. Now, in every relationship, there are 5 elements. There are limits, there are boundaries, there's expectations, there's standards, and there's accountability. And right now, we're not going to get into all of them. But when you set a boundary, make sure that boundary is not a prison or a jail cell of isolation. Boundaries should be, have the ability to be approached. A gate should be there in order to let other people in. All right. Second, prioritize personal growth over external validation. So that's one. All right. Next, build support networks of men who push you towards confidence. You got that? All right, so those are the steps. 1, stop apologizing for taking up space. 2, set clear boundaries and enforce them. 3, prioritize personal growth over external validation. 4, build a support network of men who pushes you towards confidence and self-assurance. What are your thoughts on that?
So I love 2 of them that I really love. We have to. What is apologizing for taking up space? What does that mean?
Yeah.
Like, what does that mean? Practicality, but in practical,
right?
In a practical sense. But setting clear boundaries and enforcing them, and then prioritizing personal growth over external validation. When I grow as a man,
right,
I become more attractive.
Right.
when I have that personal growth and I'm on that journey, people will notice how I move because I'm going to move different.
Exactly.
And then as you set boundaries, people are going to respect you.
Yeah.
It's going to be more like these things are all going to make you a better you.
Exactly.
And it also helps you understand the things that you're comfortable with versus not being comfortable with. And I think as you set clear boundaries, the word no becomes your best friend in a sort of way because you understand. You're like, I ain't gonna do that.
Yeah. Step it off. And no is a complete sentence, and I don't mean that. And when I've said that, I don't mean that in a negative way. No is a complete sentence. There are times when you have to say no to other people, which is allowing you to say yes to you.
Right.
So this is my challenge. My challenge this week is I want every man listening to practice saying no, at least once to something you don't want to do. Then tell me, DM me, right? So go to Instagram and go to Talk to E King or leave a comment at Unapologetic with Eric King on Facebook. The challenge is, say no in a healthy way. And by saying no in a healthy way, that provides you the opportunity to say yes to yourself and, get on the path of breaking this nice guy process. Once again, the book is a good book, right? No More Mr. Nice Guy, written by Robert Glover. Great book. If you are a person of color reading that book, it won't necessarily apply one-to-one to you. And some of those challenges in there, it might not apply one-to-one. And that's really what we're talking about. So I want everybody, everyone listening, I want you to practice saying no. And tell me the experience in that, right?
And remember that you can say no to yourself too.
You can say
don't
no.
necessarily need that extra piece.
Exactly. So I do want to transition to every third Wednesday of the month we have Brother to Brother, and it's sponsored by Code M Magazine. And I always like to bring in my brother Bilal, who is the CEO of Code M Magazine, and he gives us his perspective on what he has seen. Remember, Code M Magazine is a magazine for men that spotlight men and a place where men's voices can be heard. So right now, I would like to bring in my brother, my Scorpio brother, number one brother, Bilal Akram, CEO of Code M Magazine. What's up? You good, man? So today's topic, we were talking about the book No More Mr. Nice Guy by Dr. Robert Glover, and I did want to bring you in for your Code M. So first of all, do you have any idea or any concept on this nice guy syndrome that we have, which is specifically people pleasing?
What's funny? I just went to the No More Mr. Nice Guy to look at it. I think that's part of our innate nature sometimes, when I say our, as people of color, because we know that we have to be accepted we have to show up in certain circles in a certain manner, So we have to have the appearance of being agreeable, can't be angry, can't be too forceful,
right?
Because the stereotypes that we're aggressive and this and that. But I think sometimes it does more detriment to us than it does than serving our authentic selves.
Amen. If you get a chance, man, you know me, I'm always talking about books and what books to read.
Right.
Check it out, man. So in today's show, we was looking at how being Mr. Nice Guy, or even trying to break that cycle, doesn't actually go one-to-one as it relates to what the book was saying. And so because there's some things in the Black community that we cannot do. So when I read the 4-Hour Work Week, there's some things that I read in there. It was like, I can't see someone who is a person of color and who's male going in and demanding A, B, and C in this way, because one, we're not taught that way. We're also taught to get along, go along, and get along. So so Code M. So tell us a little bit about Code M and what we got this month in our edition.
Oh man, this month of Code M, we have Brother Joshua Edmonds on the cover for February, and Joshua Edmonds is the CEO of Digital C, which is a telecom company based in Midtown, and their sole purpose is to help separate that digital divide by providing access to the internet to those who are financially challenged.
All right.
It's a great story, great guy. And we were, we're ecstatic that he agreed, and it's been a mutually beneficial relationship thus far, because his report to us is, B, I didn't know you guys' reach was that far. I'm getting calls from all over the country.
Right.
So, that's music to our ears, brother. It really is.
I appreciate that. I love hearing it. When you look at the edition today and some of the nuggets, what are some of the main nuggets that the listeners, especially the men listening, can take away from this week's edition?
Well, one of the things that we highlight is, based on the political climate, one of the articles that we talked about is no one is coming to save us.
Right.
There'll be no cavalry. There's no Superman out there, no Anthony Mackie, Black Captain America. We have to put ourselves in a position to be our own saviors.
Amen.
And if our ancestors did it in the past, when I say they formed communities, they formed their economic powerhouses, we can do the same, because we have much more of an advantage. We have communication.
Amen. And so,
another story.
Yeah, go ahead.
Another story is talking about getting your nonprofit funded. So
Gotcha.
Those are two of the highlights that we have in the February edition of Code M Magazine.
All right. And how can our listeners connect with Code M?
They can go to our website, Code M, www, or https, codemmagazine.com. That's CODEM, and then the word magazine.com. You can look at the issues, past issues, as well as sign up and subscribe for free.
That's
FREE.
Yeah,
free.
The best price in the business, brother.
Yes, it is,
Best price.
And you'll get much more than what you paid for, trust me.
Amen. I gotta get you some intro music. So next month we're gonna work on some intro music.
Absolutely, yes, absolutely. Can I help with that?
Yeah. Send me some intro music, and then I'll make sure it's there. That is the one, the only CEO of Code M Magazine, Bilal Akram. I appreciate you, my brother, and I appreciate you spending time. His organization, Code M Magazine, is the sponsor of Brother to Brother, and Brother to Brother reaches you every third Wednesday of the month. So I'm gonna get you some music next time, my brother.
Sounds good. Thank you. Keep up the good work.
All right, man. Much love. Much love.
Thanks. Likewise. Peace.
All right. Man, we have had a fun-filled, packed day. Ivra, I'd like to thank you.
I need to go meet Mr. Bilal.
You got to go meet Mr. Bilal. I would like to thank you for being a part of the show today and everything that you have offered. Did you have any parting words or any last bits before we jump into our cool down mix?
Nobody's going to come and save us.
So. Nobody is coming to save us. Nobody is coming to save us. All right. If you would like to get a hold of this episode, you can go to Unapologetic with Eric King on YouTube. You can see some of our past and some of our old episodes. So check us out there. Next week, we got the month wrap up. We're bringing on Robin Hill. She's going to be our monthly wrap up correspondent. I appreciate your time. I appreciate you being with us. I love you. Peace.